Welcome to another episode of VGN Weekly. Members of the Virtual Grip crew will recap the previous week's races and bring us one-on-one interviews with racers, league owners, and commentators, as well as others from within the sim racing community. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. Thanks for tuning in today. Now let's go find some grip.
As the Virtual Grip Network gears up for another action-packed week of racing, let's take a quick look back at last week's race winners. Last Tuesday, Ryan Bianchi took the checkered flag in the yesteryear racing Sobo 150 from South Boston Speedway. On Thursday, Fred Leclerc stole the win in the final laps at Hickory Motor Speedway with Red Light Racing's SK Modified Series. On Saturday, Kurt Smith claimed his first win of the season in the Bootleg Racing League's Outlaw SK Modified Series at Hickory Motor Speedway. Later that night, James Lowe came out on top after a caution-filled night in the Bootleg Racing League's Late Model Series, also from Hickory. On Sunday, Tom Ogle locked himself into the playoffs by taking the checkered flag at Martinsville Speedway in the OBRL's Cup Series. And on Monday, Justin Michael won the opening round at Daytona International Speedway in Maximum Velocity's ARCA Series. Now we'll take a quick break before turning things over to John Hine, who's standing by with this week's special guest, Josh Robinson from the OBRL.
Welcome back to VGN Weekly. I am your host, John Hine, and this week I am joined by the OBRL's Josh Robinson. And Josh's first race with the OBRL happened all the way back in 2018 at the Talladega Superspeedway. Since then, he's gone on to have 240 starts, 59 poles, and get this, 66 wins, 145 top fives. He has 3 championships, including the last championship, so he comes in as a defending champion. So, Josh, it's really, really good to talk to you. How are you, man?
Doing good, John. Thank you for having me.
Well, you know, we just got done racing Vegas here this last week, and you had a good week there. Tell us a little bit about your race and how you prevailed there.
Yeah. So it's always a fun track to race.
Homestead. It was Homestead.
Yeah, sir. I knew what you meant. I knew what you meant.
Yeah. Getting old.
Homestead is usually a good track for me. It fits my driving style because you have to be a patient driver to prevail there, and with iRacing gave us such a loose setup, and it was actually really tight on cold tires on corner entry as well. So, sometimes those setups really take to my liking, and I think that was the basis of that. Is if you were super patient, super stick to your plan, then it worked out well for you if you did that.
Well, from the drop of the green flag, it was pretty obvious that you had a dominant car. You were going to be the guy, if not one of the guys that you were going to people were going to have to beat to win that race. When when the green flag flies and you get a couple laps, how long does it take you to before you're thinking, okay, got a car, it's got that I can win with today? I mean, how quick do you feel that?
I I try to get that set before we even get the green flag drops. So if I feel that I'm a car that can win the race, as soon as we take the green, I've already got that kind of set in, so I can start working on my plan and seeing my plan out. And I'm a very competitive driver, so it's even if I don't have the fastest car, it's hard for me to think that I can't win the race because I don't know if I'm wired that way.
Well, that's actually not a bad way to be wired, actually. Then you got a couple championships there to prove that that's probably a good way to be wired. Well, you talked about your plans. Start working your plans. So do you have a pre-race? Okay, here's the fuel mileage. This is where I'm going to try to run to. How often do you change it on the fly? Or should I say, how often does it get screwed up? By cautions or whatever.
Pretty often. Right, and that's a part of racing is I you have to be able to roll with the punches. You cannot control how other drivers are going to be. You cannot control when the cautions are going to fall. And because of that, you have to be able to adapt. And I think that's what a lot of the guys that have had a lot of success at any level of racing is they're able to adapt. So with that, I go into every race trying to get out all of the unknowns. I know how far I can go on a fuel run. I know how much the tires are going to fall off, if that car is going to get loose, if that car is going to get tight. I try to get all of those unknowns out of what I'm a math guy, so I try to get them all out of my equation. That way, when the green flag drops, I can focus on just driving the car. And then when those unplanned things like a caution or somebody running harder than I thought they were going to run come into play, I can deal with that one thing at that moment.
Do you when you do you practice during the week, or do you just kind of use that warm up before the race? Because you guys get like an hour warm up. So how much do you put into it before a race?
I use that hour warm up, and I try to get every ounce of that every hour warm up. Back a couple years ago, I think it was 2021. We were running the Cup Series in OBRL, and there was a lot of us that put in maybe a little bit too much time. It's all fun, so I'm not gonna say
Yeah.
we put it wasn't worth it, but man, there was guys like Tom and Eddie and Dwayne and I that were putting in Steve Thompson at that time too, that we were putting in so much effort that I think they said they were practicing for Phoenix, which was the season championship race in the summertime. And yeah, I think at that moment we were
Wow.
kind of all looking at each other, going like, "All right, maybe this is getting too far." So I've dialed it back to where I'm just using that 1 hour of practice now.
Yeah, about the only thing I practice for that early would be like a endurance race, trying to learn like the Nürburgring or something like that. Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
But
we that was a little too far. We
yeah. Well, but I do the same thing. I don't practice during the week whenever I do races. I use the warm-ups that are the leagues that I'm in afford me. And I know I work on different things during that practice session. What are some of the things that you work on? Do you try to get on top of the ego sheet, which is the speed sheet? I always call that the ego sheet. Or are you spending your time putting your car in positions that you may have to put it in during the race?
I I, I kind of do a collection of all of that. I feel that specifically in iRacing, the best way to know what line to run is to do your qualifying laps and get your qualifying laps kind of dialed in. So that would be your ego sheet there, because you're going to set a pretty blazing lap time if you're just out there running running a fast lap. But once you get that ironed out, for your race pace, you typically just need to run your qualifying line just dialed back a little bit. Get on the gas a little bit later on corner exit, lift a little bit earlier, use a little bit more brake on corner entry. So just kind of dial on back the qualifying lap. So I'll get that taken care of in practice, and then I'll try to run in a pack at some point to know how iRacing's been doing a lot of upgrades with dirty air as of late, and kind of you get a lot of aero pushes. You can get aero loose if someone gets to the back of you. So I try to put myself in the position of being right behind a car, being right in front of a car, so it's not a surprise during the race how that car feels. And then one of the things that I feel is always the most important, specifically in the OBRL, is we're going to get green flag pit stops. And so I want to be able to nail my pit stop. That way I'm not losing any spots when we're inevitably going through one of those.
So are you practicing getting on off pit road at speed?
Oh yes, and you got to practice. It's one thing to go out and run 2 laps and then practice a pit stop, and that'll get you a really good stop. But I mean, you've done it. It's it's way harder to pit on 60-lap old tires. So the best thing to do is to get 20, 30 laps on your tires and go into the pits at speed and see if it's gonna, because sometimes it can be pretty violent. And you want to get that taken care of.
Yeah. Well, and you can also get, you talk about overdriving corners, where you can overdrive pit road and get yourself in the same kind of trouble. And I don't know that there's been a broadcast that we've done that I haven't stressed the importance on getting on and off pit road every week. You see it throughout the field. Guys pick up speed or pick up places. You see guys lose them. You guys see extend their leads on that pit road. In your league, like you said, it's inevitable that you're going to have green flag stops. And if you can get an extra second or two on somebody, that is huge on the racetrack. And so far, we've seen that jumble the field quite a bit at times. Last week, one of the things too that I would kind of, and iRacing's done such a good job with tire models and all that, and they've got the one they just released on the prototypes was just insane. They've gotten so close to the real world. But where I'm going with this is, the short pitting, we talk about it all the time on the broadcast. I usually see only 1 or 2 guys take advantage of that, in getting those extra tires, because there's a lot of track. There's almost a second and a half, maybe in a few tracks here and there. Darlington will probably be one of them when we get there. It might even be up to 2 seconds a lap that you've lost. So tell me about how you value the short pitting, because I don't know that I've seen you do it. I think you ran long last week.
I am definitely known for doing what we call the overcut, and my that's just there's a little bit of there's some science that goes into that, because you are 100% losing 1 to 2 seconds a lap, and you just have to mentally prepare yourself to be way behind when you come out of the pits. And regardless if you had the lead or if you were in 5th place, if you were only, if there was a 1 second difference between you and the next car, it's going to be far greater than that. So you have to mentally condition yourself that if you're doing the overcut, it's going to be, you might come out behind that person 5 seconds. But if it's a track that has a lot of tire fall off, that means that person that pitted before you, their tires are already falling off and you're on fresh. And specifically on a track, a lot of times we start in the afternoon and the track temp will decrease. So if you're on fresher tires later in the race, you can actually turn a little bit faster laps than you would if you had fresher tires earlier in that race with, a track temp dropping 1 or 2 degrees in that time delta. So you just got to understand that when you come out, you're going to be that far behind, but you're going to make that time back up. And I think that's the hardest thing with the overcut is, some guys, it's just, you can't panic. The worst thing you can do if you do the overcut is you come out and you realize you're 5 seconds down. You can't just go. You just got to run your normal pace. You got to stay disciplined. And if you can do that, usually about 20 to 25 laps into that pit stop cycle, you'll have caught that person, and then when you catch them, you got 5 or 10 lap newer tires. It's usually not that difficult to make the pass. And in the OBRL, we're a very good league that if someone runs you down from 10 seconds back, you're not going to fight them for the 7th spot, because nobody's gaining anything at that point. So it's a very respective league, and so that's why I do the overcut a lot. It also puts you in a very good position that if a caution does fall, you're not
Yeah.
caught in the pits, which is what I think happened at Homestead.
Yes, it is what happened at Homestead. Well, the thing about doing that overcut is because that's something I haven't touched on the broadcast. I've always kind of focused a little bit on the undercuts because the advantage, like you said. But
Mhm.
but I'm guessing you touched on it. The key is because even when you drop the green flag, how you treat your tires about the first 15 laps, 20 laps is going to dictate that life of that tire, how much fall off you have at the end. And my fear of doing the undercut is, you said you have to kind of run your pace while you're trying to gain, because isn't there a point though where the tires kind of equalize a little bit? They've knocked the good off, you've knocked the good off. I mean, is there because I know in the real world there's an equalization point. If you haven't run those folks down that you've tried to undercut in 20, 30 laps, you're probably not going to get to them. And if you do, you're going to have a hard time passing them. Does
That's
that
exactly the
happen?
case.
Yeah, does that happen in iRacing?
Yep. And you'll get tracks like Phoenix is a really good example of that, where you actually don't have too much tire fall off at Phoenix. And so you equalize in lap time probably about lap 15, maybe lap 20. So if you
Oh,
haven't
wow.
caught them by that point, you might as well be on the same tire. So that's actually a track we're doing the overcut. Probably doesn't work, and it has definitely bit me before, where it's just like, oh, I do the overcut, it works out for me, and then I come out and it's like, oh gosh, why am I not catching this person? So,
Yeah, because I mean, I touched on that, I think, at Phoenix, where I could see the times kind of equal out a little bit. And that did give me a question, because I run these cup cars every now and again, so I don't have a whole lot of experience in it. But yeah, that was a trend that, you say that was a track that was very much pronounced in and whatnot. So yeah, I never really thought about, you're not even thinking fuel mileage, but you're thinking tire wear too, I guess, on your calls and undercuts and overcuts and stuff like that. So, man, there's a lot of stuff you got to do on the fly behind the wheel there in those cars for those races, especially the way your guys' races go. You may get a caution, you may not get a caution. That's what makes it fun to watch. Um, let's talk a little bit about your OBRL career real quick. You got 66 wins. Yeah, that's pretty prolific win percentage and all that. What do you attribute your success to? I mean, do you think it's part equipment? I mean, talent factors in at least 60%, 70% of it. But let's set that aside. But the last 30, is it software? Is it what kind of wheel? What do you think that last 30% is?
I think it's a lot of factors. So when I joined this league, Ogle and I joined the league back in 2018, and man, was it a humbling experience, because we had we had kind of some speed back then, and we felt like that we were good, but we were just talking about pit stops, so we would get a green flag, we would go races where we would not even get a caution, and we would lose spots in the pits and be like, good lord, what is happening here? We are getting it handed, like we're getting our lunch handed to us when we pit, and we got to get better at that. And there's a lot of guys in the league that were super helpful to us with, at that time, Eddie was running a lot in the league, and so Eddie Jones helped us out a lot. And one of the biggest factors is just having a community of people, whether that just be other people in the league or people on your team. That's probably one of the biggest factors, is you get comfortable asking people questions, and you learn the little nuances of like, oh, this is how you're doing it, or you just maybe sometimes in practice, instead of running practice laps, you just observe how other people are running, and you just learn, and that's always been a big help. Um, Having team chat and being able to bounce ideas off of each other is huge. Uh, you over at Team Miata, if one of us finds a line, it's like, hey, have you guys tried the high line yet, or have you guys tried taking two tires yet? And sometimes just bouncing those ideas off of each other. They don't always stick. Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I tried the high line. That's not going to be for me. So you get that aspect of it as well. And then one of the things you talked about, maybe equipment or software or something like that. I don't. I've never tried triples yet, but in 2021 I got VR. That was the single best upgrade I've ever did for my
Yes.
racing experience.
Yeah, I've got VR, and yes, the triples you probably get a little bit smoother screen than what you do in the VR, but that's being sitting in the seat, I that just for me was a game changer. Um, but there's pros and cons to that, and not the pros are, you really get a better sense of where the four corners of your car is. But being in VR, when you come up on somebody that is running maybe a single monitor or triples, their point of view is different. And so tell me a little bit how you have to adjust for folks that might be, let's say, on that single monitor. Are you aware of it when you come up? Do you know who runs what for the most part yet, or no?
That's definitely the case. One of the things about league racing is you're going to race with the same group of guys over and over again. So you're going to learn their tendencies, and you're going to maybe learn that they take a little bit higher arc into the corner, or maybe they brake a little bit earlier. But yeah, you just like you said, you kind of almost got to expect that almost everyone's running a single monitor, and that
Yeah.
way if you think about it, it makes it easier when you're approaching someone. Just kind of don't overcrowd them. One of the things I would love to see iRacing get better over time, because they do so many upgrades, and it's a phenomenal sim for us, but in real racing, you can lean on a person, you can maybe even bump them going into the corner, and the car absorbs that impact, because it's a pretty subtle contact, and with netcode and things like that in iRacing, it seems a little too rigid sometimes. So I think a lot of us could some of the aggression that we have could be solved by just a little having a car in iRacing that maybe is a little bit more of a sponge on the outer ends of it.
Yeah, well, part of that is, and that I think it is. I shouldn't say I know, but I'm pretty sure what it is the hit boxes that are around the car are straight lines. The hit boxes are not the contours of the car. Like you like modifieds in that. If you get close to them, that's why netcode is more prevalent in the modified than maybe a cup car or whatever. And it's just because of the straight lines around that hitbox. You see it on dirt a lot too with sprint cars and stuff like that. So I agree with you. That would be awesome if you could start leaning on people a little bit. Might not make as many friends, but um, but I was going to bring this up a little later in the show. One of the things that I saw that you kind of enjoy doing is building a PC. So if I'm new to iRacing, I don't know how many people that are thinking about that watch these things, but let's just say I'm thinking about getting into iRacing. What would you recommend, kind of to geek out a little bit, a solid start point as far as the PC goes?
Far as the PC goes, iRacing is very processor intensive. It's great to have a good graphics card and whatnot, but I think you can actually kind of tone that down a little bit and not spend the insane amount of money that those cost now, and
Yeah.
focus a little bit more on getting a solid processor. The AMD X3D series processors that they have out now, whether that be the 7800 or the new 9800 or the new 9900s that they have, those are all of those have proven out to be super solid, and I've gotten a couple people to upgrade to the 7800 X3D, and the results of that have been super promising as of late. So that's what I would probably focus on first. Get yourself probably 32 gigs of RAM. Always, if you're building a PC specifically for iRacing, always make it scalable up. So if you're going to go into a new motherboard or whatnot, get maybe the latest socket. That way, if you just want to upgrade your processor, you don't also have to upgrade the motherboard with it. But yeah, as far as the PC goes, in terms of iRacing, focus a little bit more on the processor side than the graphics card side. You still need a good one. You probably still want at least a 3070. If you're building something new, but they probably got the 4070 and the 5070s out now too. I might be a little dated on that side of it, but
Yeah, I think they're in the
yeah.
50s now. Well, for someone that's not computer savvy, what is an upgrade processor? What does that do for you in the sim?
When you are upgrading that, I always recommend that if you get a hardware upgrade, know what your bottleneck is. You're always going to be either CPU bottlenecked or graphics card bottlenecked. So if try to understand which one that is. iRacing has some indicator bars with the R and the G, so pay attention to those, and then just ask the community of, hey, here's what I have. What should I upgrade? And then don't want to put any. These things are getting expensive as of late, so
Yeah.
Whether it's the processor or the graphics card, make that upgrade, and then when you do, I always recommend doing a new graphics config in iRacing, because you've got new hardware that iRacing needs to recognize, and that config does a really good job of getting your all your graphical settings in place. But I tend to go in there and tweak a little bit. If you're doing some replay reviews afterwards and you're using the previous incident or the next incident, you gotta bump up how many cars you can see, or if a car 20 cars away from you has an incident, iRacing just makes that disappear.
Yep. Well, that's cool. Well, just to finish out the tech talk part of the conversation, what are you using for your wheels and your pedals?
So right now, I have for my wheel, upgraded that probably about 2 years ago. I run the Moza R9, and then I just have uh, just a regular steering wheel that Moza offers. I think it's the CS version 2. So a couple buttons on that, but I'm in VR, so it kind of doesn't matter how many buttons it has because I can't see them.
Is that Moza direct drive?
That Moza is a direct drive,
Okay.
and I came from before that I had the Thrustmaster TMX, which was a belt-driven kind of a plastic wheel, and it's when I would not say I necessarily got any faster by upgrading from that belt drive to the direct drive. But one thing that I have noticed is that it feels more like an actual steering wheel, and so you get a little bit more finite detail than you would on a belt drive wheel. So it probably makes me more consistent, and I don't know, just some of the some of your Logitech wheels and some of your Thrustmaster wheels, in addition to just being plastic in general, but they're a little bit smaller diameter, whereas this one has a 13-inch wheel on it, so it feels just more. I always feel like I just get a little bit more detail out of it than I did before.
Yes, and well, obviously the feedback into it. I know when I got my direct drive, and the first thing I did was went out on a dirt track in a sprint car, and
Nice.
and had the feedback turned up significantly, and
Paid for it.
yeah, almost broke. My first experience with my new wheel was almost breaking my wrist. So,
I
yeah, that
think
was.
we've all done that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and and the cool thing about those, for folks that are on the fence or maybe looking to upgrade, you're right about the finite details, but center corner and stuff like that, the things that at least in my opinion, you feel the car, you can feel where the limit of the car is a lot easier. And that's the one recommendation why I would say, yeah, if you're looking, you should, because at least, like I said, for me, you can feel the limit of the car a whole lot easier.
I agree. And then, if you're looking to upgrade, going to a direct drive, I do feel is worthwhile. It wouldn't be the first thing I would recommend that you upgrade.
No.
Get your visuals out of the way. If you're on single monitor and want to upgrade to triples or VR, I would recommend doing that first. And then the next thing I would recommend upgrading, specifically also if you're a road course enthusiast, would be your pedals.
Yes.
Getting a load cell one, because I run the TLCMs from Thrustmaster, and it has a load cell brake pedal, and they're not on the expensive end of the spectrum in terms of those, but it's good enough for me, and just being able to confidently brake at a road course has been huge.
Yes.
So I would say get that, and then I would even say get an actual seat, uh, and get everything in position. And you don't have to go crazy, but if you get an 80/20 rig, or if you just get a seat mounted to where you're not like table mounting your wheel every time, I would actually put that above, and just because you feel comfortable, then it's less that you got to do each and every one. You're not, we all put the wheel on the pedal at some point when we started sim racing, and you do that thing where it's just like, oh crap, is this centered, do I have it in the right spot? And and
Yes.
so just having it fixed in the exact same spot every time and building that comfort is huge. And then I would say direct wheel after that, so I would actually put that fourth in terms of things to upgrade. But once you have it, you can't go back. Like I couldn't go back
Oh
to a
no.
belt driven wheel.
No. No, it's just like VR. I took the VR off once and tried to run a single monitor again, and that just was not happening. I'm trying to figure out how I ever even turned a lap that way, let alone won races or anything. But um, you talked about, you way back when you started iRacing, all your first stuff. So tell me, how did you find iRacing? How did you get into that?
So it was, kind of it just was playing random video games and stuff over the years, and eventually, wasn't real racing anymore. And then my buddy Tom Ogle, he also wasn't racing for real anymore, and he stumbled upon this back in, I think, 2016, and so he got me into it. We were running a lot of official races back then, and those are good. Those are a lot of fun. You start in your rookie street stocks and you build your way up, and it's fun being able to race against other real people, because they can, on a console, or even if it's on the computer, just running against AI is there. It's fun, but that fun is limited in my opinion, and you got to race against other real people, and so that was a blast. And then from there, we danced around a couple leagues, try to find where it was that we belonged, and then we eventually got to the OBRL back in 2018. So that was kind of fun. One of the crazy things was, and I want to throw Tom under the bus for this, but he was just kind of like scatter plotting what leagues we should be in and trying all different things. He somehow got us into a league that eventually had a bunch of Coke 600 drivers in it, or like I'm sorry, not the Coke 600, but like the Coca-Cola series, iRacing series. Like a lot of those guys, like a Doucette and whatnot, graduated up to that level, and we had just started, and oh my gosh, did we get it handed to us? And, and we were just like, what? I just kept asking him, like, what? Why are we here?
Yeah, you run into that if you go into open practice sessions. You've got an alien in there, and you're thinking, "How the hell is he half a second faster or a second faster? What is he doing?" Um, gotta be a grip hack. That's always my go-to. Gotta be a grip hack. They're not really that good, even though I know damn well they are. But yeah, it's always amazing when you get somebody that's just got a whole lot of talent. Um,
Mhm.
I've raced against Ty Majeski once in a Legends car, and dude lapped the field, you know, 20 laps of a 30 lap race. I mean, it was just like, yeah, whatever. you know, you don't have any talent. Never mind that he's, successful truck driver now, but yeah, it is cool when you get somebody and you see something like that, it does put you in kind of a little bit, hey, I got work to do. It motivates you, and Yeah, it hasn't happened often enough. I think too bad you don't get to race those guys a little more often. With that's how the splits the way they are anyway, at least with my I rating. It'd be kind of cool to get my butt kicked by them every now and again.
And given that that was so many years ago, I would like to, if we've just so many of us have gotten,
Better.
we've gotten better over the years, and I would love a chance to go back and test that out again because, I've been in a race with Majeski too. I think it was like Ozark Plains or something like that with the street stocks, and he was in first the entirety of the race. And then I've been in a couple races, I think, with Dale Earnhardt Jr., but those were more official lobby ones, and I think he just got wrecked out in all of them. And then I was
Yeah.
actually in a race with Denny Hamlin, and Denny actually didn't win the race, but I just remember like being behind him, just going, "My gosh, this guy has not made a mistake in over 100 laps. Like that's impressive."
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just crazy stuff. And then, yeah, this is why we do it, the way we do it, and they do it the way they do it in the real world. Talent might be more like 90% of for them, equipment after, because I'm pretty sure you could probably put them on, I don't know, a wheel from 1999, and they probably still show up and whip everybody's butt.
Yep.
So, you know, your career through OBR, like we've touched on, a lot of success. Your start through iRacing, but you mentioned earlier your real racing came to an end. Tell me a little bit about the real world stuff you were doing.
Yeah, so I've been involved in racing the entirety of my life. We just had family friends, and then my dad was actually the crew for a guy named Ron Craver who ran street stocks in the area. He started over at Canton Motor Speedway, which that track is a gravel pit now. But he started there, and then when that track shut down, he actually moved over to the dirt track. Venue at Wayne County Speedway, and that's when I started going to the race. I was old enough to actually go to the races at that point in the early '90s, and that I don't know. It's just I think we all kind of go through that scenario where it's we get there, and no matter what age you are or what you're there for, you see it and you're like, oh yeah, this is my thing. And so that's kind of how I got into it, was just kind of some family friends, and then Ron had sons with Chad and Brandon, and we've just been friends our whole life. And so when we all got of age that we could actually start racing, we started to race. So I had a car, Chad had a car, Brandon had a car, and then so at that point, the dads became our pit crew, and then it's kind of like a natural circle of life there.
You mentioned Wayne County. That area has three really tracks I always love to go to. Wayne County was one, New Sharon was another, and then Raceway 7. That's a little bit north of I think where you're at.
Mhm.
And Conyet. I think I don't probably ain't pronouncing it right, but those are three tracks I used to love and going to in that area, especially New Sharon. Great track. Um, did you ever get to run on dirt? Were you just strictly on the asphalt?
So I was exclusively on the dirt. So when I
Oh, good.
started at
Yeah.
Wayne County Speedway,
See,
we
now I like
ran
you more.
we ran mini stocks there, and that's actually where I ended up meeting Tom Ogle all the way back in, oh my gosh, probably 2003 at this point. And it's so much fun. Got to run at Wayne County. Got to run at a track called Hilltop Speedway down in Millersburg, Ohio. Ran a track called Lakeville, which is in Loudonville, Ohio. That was, man, was that a hole in the wall track, but it was still fun to race. And kind of ran there a lot. Ran Central Ohio. There's a track called Midvale. I'm sorry, not Midvale. Midway. Ran there once. Ran
Midway.
Muskingum,
Yeah.
which is where the Morans they own that, and then traveled over to Macon Speedway in Illinois one time, which
Oh, nice little bull ring.
yeah, oh yeah. We knew it was a short track when we were going over there, but you do not realize how small of a track that is until you
It
walk
is
up to it,
tiny.
and
Yeah,
then it's
I
just like,
remember
holy crap.
I've raced there in a late model, and I remember walking up to the make ready shoot while they were doing the track prep, looking, thinking, I'm supposed to pitch it in there, and I'm going to come out there. That ain't that. that's sketchy.
I had that exact
Um,
same mindset. I walked up to and I was like, "Is this the go-kart track?"
yes, yes, but man, it puts on great racing because it's not one lane. You can move around on that track a little bit. As weird as that sounds, at least on the late model with the power, you could do it. Were you over there for that mini stock world championship or whatever that is?
That's exactly why I was over
Yeah.
there. We, we went over there. I had actually had car issues with my regular car, so I ended up borrowing a gentleman's name of Ryan Pearson. I borrowed his car, which was Tom Ogle's old car, and then so I get over there, and everything's good to go. We actually ran the exact same car, so adjusting to it was no problem. But the thing I remember the most was we did pill draw for how we lined up for the heat races, and I walked up there, and in some smug, kid, just immediate karma to me. I was like, how many pills are in here? And the lady at the counter was like, there's 150 pills, and I was like, all right. And I reached in and I grabbed 149, and I was like, oh, it is gonna be a long night.
Yeah. Why did I bother?
It's man,
Um,
I made the best of that though, because started dead last in the last heat race. There were 9 heat races. I started dead last in that. They took the top 2. I got third because it felt like the heat race was about 3 laps long, and, it's always gonna feel. It could have been 30 laps long, but if you're not getting up to the spot you need to, it always feels too short, right?
yeah.
So I got that. I had to run a last chance race, and I don't, I, I don't really know how they lined us up for the last chance race, but I somehow started on the pole, even though I got third in the ninth. I didn't question it, and and I started
Yeah.
on the pole of that, and they took the. You had to win that to make it in, and fortunately, the guys behind me kept. They were out for blood, but they became out for blood behind me. So I was able just to get away from all that. It was a good experience though. That would have been really disappointing to drive all the way out there and not make the show though.
Well, yeah, that's quite a long tow. Because what'd you do? Hop up on 80, 90, run that over for a while? Did you just drive straight across? Um,
We drove straight across
right,
on 30.
30. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was an 8-hour drive. And then I
Yeah.
don't know if you've never been in a Ogle. We had there's three cars that went and 6 of us that drove over, and Ogle's not one to follow the speed limits, and he knew the way because this is we're running MapQuest at that point. Nobody has GPS on their phone, and he oh my god,
MapQuest.
it
Holy
was like
cow.
that's
I remember
exactly what it
that.
was. We printed out MapQuest to get over
Yes.
there, but Tom was the one leading the charge, and it was like a race to get to the track. And
Oh, nice little cannonball run over.
yeah, that's what it felt like. I just remember going down the highway towing a car in my parents' '92 Chevy Silverado, just going like, I really don't feel like I should be doing 85 right now.
Well, it might have been a 10-hour trip if you weren't. Um, but yeah, that's a good story. That's pretty cool.
It
Yeah,
was it was
Macon.
worth every second of it.
Yeah, and Macon's a good time. So that's a great facility and a track to go in and take part in that. So, um, the other thing is, we're talking about New Sharon and all that, so that kind of implies that you're from the Eastern Ohio area. Um, so I gotta assume, you're probably a Browns fan. So how about for the Cavs or the Guardians, or you follow either one of them?
Kind of loosely. In the '90s when the Browns weren't here, which would be the later '90s, mid '90s. I was a big baseball fan because at the time I was actually playing baseball in school, and so they were doing real. The '95 and the '97 Indians were
Yeah.
just really good teams. And so anytime they're doing well and you're actually playing that sport yourself, that was always fun to watch. Never been a huge basketball fan, but being that LeBron James was from the area and he's
Oh, that's
roughly
right.
my age.
Yeah, he is like not actually out of Cleveland. He's south of there, like around you, isn't he?
He's from Akron, and he's 20. His hometown is 20 minutes up the road from me, so
Yeah.
that was huge for us that we had that next blue chip player of sure ballot Hall of Famer, and given that he was able to go to Cleveland to start off his career, that was pretty amazing. Like that made a lot. There was a lot more Cavs fans at that time, right? And that's just how it is. I'm sure that was the same thing when in Chicago when Jordan went there. And I'm not comparing LeBron James to Jordan because Jordan's still better, but that was huge for us. But it's always been football for me. So the Browns are the Browns are the Browns. They there is no surefire disappointment I will have in my life that is greater than the Browns.
Have you ever sat in the dog pound?
I have my
That's
manager
awesome.
actually he would get dog pound tickets. He would get season tickets in the dog pound, and so every couple years I would get some from him, and had some good dog pound experiences. It's
Well, you got to
it's
give me one. You got to tell me one of them. That's
it's
actually retellable.
It's so a couple years ago. Actually, gosh, a couple years ago is an understatement. This is probably over 10 years ago at this point. But our quarterback at the time was Seneca Wallace.
All right.
Who that was a blip. That was a blip on the radar. He
Yep,
he
that's
just was
post
Phil
Tim
gapping.
Couch. Yep.
Yes, and he was okay, but he did not have arm strength, and they were so we were in the dog pound, and they were actually approaching us, and 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 as they're approaching us, we seen him get ready to throw an out route, and they were playing Kansas City, and I've just never been in a stadium where there was just a collective oh no, don't do that. Because we all seen the Kansas City defensive back just read his eyes perfectly. And we were like everybody was just like, no, 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 no. Oh, he threw it. And it was an immediate pick six. And for some reason that's the one that sticks with me. The other one in the stadium, I wasn't quite in the dog pound, but I was pretty close to it, was the day Baker Mayfield came in and did his first start against the Jets. That's the most alive stadium. It felt like there was an earthquake the whole time because it was just so loud. Everybody was up moving because there was just so much excitement of like, oh my gosh, we got our guy. We finally got our guy. And he was that guy for some time, but then things, because it's the Browns, of course it didn't pan out.
I was gonna say you guys got well, but the thing is too, he matured down in Tampa, and I don't know if that's because of team leadership, whether in the locker room or even coaching leadership. Um, but he's not. I know everybody's like, oh, they made a big mistake there, but those are two different players. Just how he carries himself, I mean, you can see it in interviews, everything else. His maturation process. Um, Definitely accelerated after he left, which is a shame because I think if he
It
was the player he is now,
Yeah.
you guys probably would have been a playoff team the last few years for sure.
We
Uh,
we are very aware of that.
I'm sure you are, but there's no crystal ball that would have said, "Hey, this guy is gonna, for lack of a better term, pull his head out of his rear,"
He
And
did, and you hit the nail on the head. He needs some maturing, and
yeah,
unfortunately, the Browns organization wasn't willing to let him mature here, and things happened.
yeah. How about Ohio State? Buckeyes. You do the college football at all?
I do pay attention to Ohio State. I actually had in college. I had some friends go down there, so got to experience some actual Ohio State game day. Oh man, that is so much fun. Was down there for some Michigan games, and
Oh,
that's
geez.
That
And
is just crazy, and it's something in life that you need to experience that, and I'm so glad I did. And that was kind of that was ushered in by having some friends that went down there, because I would have never went down there any other way. And but being on campus for a Michigan game, whew,
how is that comparable to a Browns Ravens game now, or is it
it
more? Is it even further? Up
it's
here.
even further. It I just remember they were ranked 1 and 2 one year, so kind of a perfect scenario. And this is pre-college playoffs. That they were ranked that high, and we were down there, and we did not have tickets, but we're in a dorm, and the campus is 500 feet away or whatnot, and just that game started at 7:30 p.m. and I, it's college. You're allowed to do what you want, right? So I just remember there was a lot of people that, had some festivities and then took a nap and got up for round two hours before that game even kicked off.
That's awesome. Um, well, kind of cool that you're a big football fan. I'm a huge football fan, so we could probably turn a whole podcast into football talk. And Lowell will drive off the road wherever he is watching this, and but we don't need to do that. So let me move over to you talked about your dad and whatnot working on race cars and stuff like that. So can you tell me a little bit about your family and kind of what area precisely are you from and where are you at now?
So grew up in Navarre, Ohio. That's actually if you were ever to chart Navarre, Ohio on the map, there are two big companies that come from there. You got Nichols Bakery, and actually my grandma retired from there, and then Mid Spaghetti Sauce. I don't know
Man,
if
I
you've ever
bet you
had
that
that.
sound. I have not had that, but I'm thinking a bakery, huge bakery.
Yep.
Walking out in the morning must be like, oh, there was a bakery near where I lived, and when they fired that sucker up, it made you hungry.
It's
Um,
exactly the case, and it smelled so good.
I bet, man, oh man, oh man. Now there's a reason to go visit that town just to walk outside in the morning. But you stayed in the area though, and you're in Canton now.
Yeah, so I live in North Canton now, and it's all just Canton. I was able I ended up getting my engineering degree from up at the University of Akron. So after high school, I just commuted from home up to Akron every day because that was a 30-minute drive, and then kind of just got lucky, and there was an engineering ISC company in the area that after I graduated, I was able to hire on for. So I stayed in the area. All of my family stayed in the area, at least my immediate family. And then, other than that, like some of my friends have ventured out into other states. But good thing about technology is you can you can be in other states, and it's really like not you're that far away.
No, it's not though. We are all connected in a much different way and whatnot. I'll actually be in Arkansas because of that technology. This week, I'm going to meet up with some folks I went to high school with many
Nice.
moons ago, and which is going to be kind of cool. Um, excuse me. So what exactly you said engineering. So what do you do for work?
So I graduated with my mechanical engineering degree, and then I work for a company that does trailer suspensions. And when I started there, I designed tools and like processes to actually build the suspensions. And then
Jeez.
from there, I did some actual product design work. And then as of late, I've been able to harness those technical skills and kind of transfer them to more of a business management role.
Well, very, very cool. Can we put the name of the company out
Yeah,
or no?
sure. The company I work for is Hendrickson Trailer.
Very cool. Are they do? Is it primarily like I mean, or is it a wide array of trailers, or does it specialize semi or toy
So we
trailers?
are so we are all heavy duty, and that would roll into the actual semi trailer suspension.
Wow, I bet you that's something that's evolved quite a bit.
We
Um,
we're fully air ride, and
mhm.
so over the years things
Well,
have
real
progressed
quick?
from lease
What
ring.
is that? What does air ride mean? Just, I mean, even I
Yeah,
don't know.
So an air ride suspension means that instead of having like a mechanical leaf spring with a shock absorber, we take that mechanical spring and it's instead an air spring, and so it's just a chunk of rubber, if you will, and then that's designed specifically to house a certain amount of air for it, and those act independently of each other, and then gives a lot of more comfortable ride. And that comfortable ride's not only just for the driver, but it's also for the cargo.
Wow, very cool. Man, oh man. Another guy with another important job here for us on this show. We've over the last year, 10 months now, we've interviewed a lot of different really cool professions, and you're right up on the list on that. So ve- very cool. Um, well, we're kind of getting close here to the end of our deal for this week and whatnot. So you said you've watched a couple of shows, so I'm gonna do a quick green white checker with you real quick. You ready?
Sure.
All right. First one, I know you can drive over to St. Louis and punch me in the head here after we're done. But first one I'm going to go with this season's starting quarterback is going to be Deshaun or Kenny Pickett.
Probably Kenny Pickett.
Wow, over Deshaun.
So
You don't think
Deshaun's still coming
you?
off with an Achilles, his second Achilles injury, so I think
That's
he will
true.
not be medically cleared.
Gotcha. All right. The Guardians or the Browns? Who's a lot more likely to make the playoffs?
Guardians.
Okay. You got you're put in the penalty box by iRacing, and you're only allowed to drive one car for 30 days. What's your
Ooh.
car you're going to pick?
Ooh, that's a good question. I feel the Gen 4 is the most fun car to drive. But I think the next gen suits my driving style the best. But if I can only drive one, I'm gonna pick the Gen 4.
You know, a few of you asphalt guys have picked that car. I'm gonna have to go check that car out and try it and drive it. It's been probably a couple of years since I've been in that car. So, but I keep hearing that over and over again.
You can drive it a
Um,
lot off the right rear. So it's the ARCA car with more
oh,
power, and so it drives a little bit like a dirt car, more
that's why I
so than
was
the others.
doing. Yeah, but I'd blow the tire off, I'm sure. So well, all right, man. Well, I do want to kind of before we let you go, kind of preview a little bit about your next race. And ironically, everybody knows that we record this show, and then we pre-record it, and then it comes out on Tuesday. So tonight, you guys are at the Paperclip in Martinsville. Um, so what can we expect from a race? What do you think will happen to kind of put you on the record so when people see this, they're going to know? Um, what do you forebode for tonight?
Oh, it's Martinsville is a tough track for iRacing. It is a blast to drive. It is very difficult to drive when you get other people on the track, and so I think in our league we're going to show a lot of patience with each other, and that always speaks volumes with how the league goes. So you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see some patience. And then you're going to see a lot of side-by-side racing. We'll probably get another 35 plus cars. So not being able to be side by side, there might be a point where you're side by side for 50 laps just because you have no other choice. So I think you'll see a lot of side-by-side racing. I think you'll see some patience, and then at the end, I think you'll see some people wanting to get a win and trying to make maybe take you do have
Get
to
in the
take
playoffs.
advantage of situations.
Yeah, we saw it yesterday in the Xfinity race, which was I don't even know what to put, just a cluster beep at the end of that race. So, um, you know, having said that, so we'll look for that tonight. The one thing I will say about Martinsville that I always look for, and that I think is it's such a good way to learn how to actually race people is because those corners there, people have different agendas when they approach the corner. Some people like to kind of lay up a little bit and back their corner up and get in to get a good run off the corner. Some people like to drive it in there, use the brake to turn the car. This is a track I think more than anywhere that we'll go to that you have to be aware of who you're racing and know their tendencies. Because if you don't, that's probably where the cautions are going to come from. Do you think
You're
that's fair?
exactly right. You're exactly
Yep.
right. It's different driving styles invite the thought that someone is dive bombing, and
Yes.
it's they're probably not actually dive bombing. It's just that's how they take the corner, and then they might also be getting a little bit more motivation to go into that corner a little bit harder because they got two people behind them, and so it's very inviting to accidentally think the person underneath you is dive bombing you, but it's just the nature of the track. That's what makes it fun, right?
Yeah.
Like if if you can if you can maybe rattle someone's cage a little bit and make them think you're gonna dive bomb, and then they maybe move up the track, then you now have an invitation on the low line.
Yep. Overdrive the corner a little bit, and you just slide right under them. But the next race here, so when everybody gets to watch this, we're going to be moving forward to Darlington. So Darlington is a very unique track because that's a track you race the track more so than you probably race your competitors. What are your thoughts on Darlington, and what are you expecting to from yourself? How well do you think you'll do there?
Darlington is a blast to drive. Uh, I I I think I'll be okay there. I actually tend to be my own worst enemy there because I'll either go too slow. I have not found the perfect pace there yet. I'm either too patient and then I can't catch up to someone, and then like we were talking about earlier, that the tires have, if you catch them, man, is that a hard place to pass. And then at the same time, I have 100% gotten the lead and just be like, all right, I got to maintain it. And the next thing you know, my right rear's burned off, and I'm making having a meeting with the inside wall on the backstretch.
Yeah, and Darlington is definitely a track where those tires are going to equal out to new to old, probably 20, 30 laps into a run. I would think. Um, at least last time I was there, I'm pretty sure that's how. Because last time I was there, I was in an Xfinity car, and I think that was the case. So, um, who do you think's going to be the guy to beat there? I mean, you've been with that league for a couple of years, so who's going to be the guy to beat?
There's quite a few people that are really good at Darlington. Dwayne MacArthur has always been good there. If TJ's running the Sunday night series, he's really good there. Courtney's shown a lot of speed there over the years as well. So I think you'll see those three just kind of naturally work their way to the front, and then you're going to have a lot of the pack, like a Tom, a Lloyd Moore, and Eddie. You're going to have a lot of those guys, a Dan Hill, that are just contenders to win every race, and those guys. If you mix those in with the guys that are maybe some Darlington ringers, it should make for a really good show. I'm really excited to see us get a 40+ car field there, because that's usually Darlington maybe shies a couple cars away, just because it's a little bit tougher to race. But if we get a 40+ car field there, that might be a different OBRL race than we've ever seen.
Great. Well, I look forward to it. So, well, very cool. I really appreciate your time and coming and hanging out with us. I know you didn't feel quite well today to do it, so I do thank you for soldiering through it and hanging out with us for a little bit.
Oh, I appreciate it. You guys, these are, like I said, I've listened to quite a few of these, so hopefully you guys can make me sound good.
Well, you will. This has been a great interview. So I can't wait to go back and watch it myself. So, um, again, good luck here if you do make it tonight. If you are feeling up to it and get in there and race tonight. If not, I wish you the well for the rest of the season.
Appreciate it. Have a good day.
And again, we thank Josh Robinson for his time this week. And my name is John Hine, and we do thank you for tuning into VGN Weekly. We look forward to seeing you next week right here on VGN.
Coming up on VGN, the RLR Skitter Creek SK Modified Series will be live from North Wilkesboro Speedway on Thursday, April 3rd at 7:55 p.m. The BRL Modifieds and Late Models from Five Flags Speedway will air on Saturday, April 5th at 7:40 p.m. The OBRL Yesteryear Cup Series goes live at 8 p.m. from Darlington Raceway on Sunday, April 6th. Maximum Velocity Racing League's ARCA Series will be live from Phoenix Raceway on Monday, April 7th at 9:30 p.m. And catch the next episode of VGN Weekly at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, April 8th, all times Eastern. You can see our full schedule and more at virtualgrip.net.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of VGN Weekly. Join us next time for race recaps, interviews, and much, much more. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. This has been a production of the Virtual Grip Network and the Skitter Creek Motorsports Group.